Yo, my people, what's good? My name is Tommy Famos, and today I'm gonna answer some questions. There's a lot of people who are asking me about my connections in my studio, or how the routing work, what are the connections, like that type of stuff questions. So let's make a fit about it. For the people who don't know me, I'm a sample-based hip-hop, boom-bap beatmaker. Most of the time I work with vinyl, with records. I love to dig in the crates and get some dope jams. So let's get into it. First I start with the records. A record player, that's what I use. Just a cheap one. It's a Gemini. I like it, I like the sound, it's cool, and it works for me. From the record player I go into my MPC 2000. There are several reasons I'm using it. It's because it's easy to chop the samples. You have a screen, with a waveform, so I'm much faster to chop samples than on the MPC 60. And also the 2000 has a low pass filter, so that's what I most of the time use to make bass lines or make a filter for a sample. So yeah, that's why I use the MPC 2000, and also to adjust the volume that goes into the MPC 60, because the MPC 60 has a cool record preamp. If you have a kick or a snare and you push the volume a little bit, it gets gritty, dirty and punchy. So that's what I really like about the 60. And that's how I make my beats on it. But enough about the beat making, we're talking about the connections. So from the MPC 60, when I make a beat, I always use the 8 output board. So I have 8 outputs from the MPC 60 that goes into my board. It's a TIAC M15 from 1979, and the reason why I use this board is also because the 8 output board from the MPC 60 is really low in volume, and I want to beef it up, So I use also the preamps of my board. I also have the 8 channels from the 8 outputs. So for example, on channel 1 I have the hi-hats, on channel 2 the snares, channel 3 the kick, go on till I have the 8 channels. From there I can go use the EQ from the board. I really like it because I modified this board a little bit. I did some recap in the EQ section. Also I recapped the power supply. So it gives better sonics. It's not the best board in the world, but I really enjoy it because it's a flexible board. It has 24 channels. Do I need 24 channels? Yes, I do. The first 8 are from an MPC. The second 8 are from hybrid mixing. So what I can do with hybrid is if I have 8 tracks on my MPC and I want to give them some analog feel, I can go with 8 tracks out of my interface and go straight back to my board and use my outboard gear. That's for the hybrid section. The last 8 are from my tape machine. There's a Fostex R8. It also has 8 channels, so I can move back and forth with every connection. So I can go from MPC into the board, and from the board into my tape machine. And when I got that beat on the tape machine, I play the tape machine back through the board and it records into my interface, into my DAW. That's how I use it. What interface am I using? I use a Motu, let me see, 808 MK2. It's an older one, I think almost 10 years, but it's still working, and that's about it. I really like it. What I also did forget to mention is how I use my outboard gear. So when I made the beat on the MPC 60, I go with the 8 outputs. I go into the board, and from the board I go to my group bus section on it. You don't see it, but I will screenshot it in or something. And it's a group section of 8 channels. I can make it 4 stereo or 8 mono. I also use the mono because the MPC I work on is mono. You can do some tricks to get stereo, but that's a hassle. I don't like it. So when I use the group tracks, it's are also the independent isolated tracks. So the hi-hats, the snare, they're not grouped together. Only my kick, snare, bass for the punch. So when I route, for example, a snare, I go from the group, from the snare, I go to my patch bay. It's also connected. So for my patch bay, I can go with some patch cables and choose what kind of gear I like. So I could choose, for example, the Umic. So I patch it in, I dial it in, just for taste, what I like. And I can print also that on the tape or record it directly into my DAW, Cubase. And that's how it works. Though I mix in my DAW, just a little bit, some surgical EQ, some resonance I don't like, or no compression, because I use here my compression for coloring the sound. I use panning, just a little reverb sometimes on the snare or on the sample, that's what I like. And just an end limiter, just to make sure it doesn't clip. So I hope you like this video, man. And if you have questions, put it on here below, and don't forget to subscribe. Peace.